Indiana man accused of killing, eating ex-girlfriend. Joseph Oberhansley was born into what seemed like a normal family in West Valley City, Utah. In his early years, he was described as a gentle child with no signs foretelling the brutal acts that would follow. However, fate would mark his life with devastating losses. In 1997, Joseph suffered two severe blows when he lost both his father and brother within just a few weeks. These losses deeply impacted the psychology of a young man in a developmental stage. He began to fall into drug addiction, dropped out of school at 17, and started associating with criminal groups. December 9, 1998, became a fateful day in Joseph's life. Just 5 days after the birth of his son Joseph Jr., his 16-year-old girlfriend Sabrina Elder experienced a horrific death, completely out of control due to drug influence. Joseph broke into his grandmother's house and committed a series of violent actions. The case details revealed Joseph's brutality. He shot and killed Sabrina right in front of her family. Not stopping there, Joseph also shot at his mother and attempted to shoot his sister. Fortunately, both his mother and sister survived, but the psychological wounds left were incredibly deep. The most shocking aspect of the case was how the legal system handled Joseph. Instead of receiving the maximum sentence for murder, he was sentenced to only 15 years in prison and was released early after 12 years. Mitigating factors such as a head injury, substance use, and family support helped Joseph avoid the heaviest sentence. During the clemency hearing, Joseph's mother even testified in support of her son, arguing that he had no intent and was influenced by drugs. This demonstrated the complexity of family relationships and how the judicial system evaluates cases with psychological elements. After being released, Joseph was transferred to Indiana under a federal supervision agreement. In the following years, he continuously violated the law. Incidents such as resisting arrest, driving without a license, and other minor incidents showed that Joseph had not truly been rehabilitated. Local authorities repeatedly warned about Joseph's dangerous nature. However, the legal system seemed to lack effective preventive measures. In 2014, another dark period marked Joseph's life. He met Tammy Jo Blanton, a 47-year-old healthcare worker, an active person working in health services. She was loved by those around her for her friendly personality. The relationship between her and Joseph Oberhansley started normally, but quickly turned risky. Blanton, recognizing Oberhansley's abnormal and violent tendencies, decided to end the relationship after multiple arguments. On September 11th, Jeffersonville police responded twice at Blanton's house near the city center. Blanton initially called 911 around 3 a.m., stating that her ex-boyfriend was outside and refused to leave. She told police, who arrived, that she had broken up with Oberhansley and the locks had been changed. According to the possible testimony of Detective Todd Hollis in Jeffersonville, police told Oberhansley to leave, and officers ensured he left after Blanton spoke to him outside. About 7 hours later, police received a call from Sabrina Hall, one of Blanton's colleagues, who was worried that she hadn't come to work because another friend told her Blanton had trouble with her boyfriend. Police discovered the back door of her house had been forced open. Blanton's dismembered body was found in the bathtub, covered with a tent, surrounded by blood pools in the bathtub and on the floor. On September 11th, 2014, Tammy Jo Blanton was brutally murdered in her home. According to investigation documents, that morning she had changed her house locks to prevent Oberhansley from accessing it. However, this did not stop him. In the early morning, Joseph Oberhansley broke into the house, and a series of horrific actions occurred. Tammy was viciously attacked with a knife. Investigators later discovered that Oberhansley had stabbed the victim multiple times, resulting in death with over 25 sharp object wounds and multiple blunt force injuries. Even more horrifying, according to Oberhansley's statements during interrogations, he committed cannibalism after killing Tammy. Specifically, he admitted to cutting and consuming parts of her brain, heart, and lungs. Police found Tammy Jo Blanton's body in the bathtub, severely damaged with some internal organs missing. The tools Oberhansley used, including a knife and a saw, were also found at the scene. Oberhansley's barbaric actions shocked the Jeffersonville community, not just because of their brutality, but due to the completely inhumane motivation. Joseph Oberhansley was arrested on the same day of the incident. Initially, he denied all accusations, but later admitted to some astonishing details about his actions. During the investigation, psychiatrists assessed that Oberhansley suffered from serious mental health issues, including delusions and personality disorders. In 2017, Oberhansley was declared unfit to stand trial and was sent for mental health treatment. In Oberhansley's appeal filed in late May, it was noted that he suffered from a severe mental illness that made him so detached from reality that he thought he had to kill Tammy and eat her organs to achieve a higher level of consciousness and strength. Oberhansley's mental health was a controversial topic during the pre-trial phase. Initially, he was considered mentally unfit to stand trial in October 2017, then considered competent in 2018 after a psychiatrist at Logansport State Hospital stated that Oberhansley's mental health had been restored. The defense and prosecution reached an agreement in 2019, where they agreed to remove the death penalty if Oberhansley's mental health or insanity was not used as a defense. A retrial was declared in his initial murder case after a witness raised issues about Oberhansley's past drug use and time in prison. A judge determined that this information would be prejudicial to the jury. After years of legal disputes, he was finally tried in 2020. Oberhansley testified that 2 black men were present at Ms. Blanton's house when he arrived around 4 a.m. that day and said they were responsible for the 46-year-old man's death and had beaten him unconscious. He claimed to have awakened when police knocked on the door searching for the victim. During the trial, the jury heard horrific evidence, including witness testimonies and autopsy results. In September 2020, Joseph Oberhansley was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Although prosecutors initially considered the death penalty, they decided to abandon this request, emphasizing that Oberhansley's mental condition could complicate the execution process. Supreme Court Justice Christopher Goff ruled that the jury had made the necessary deliberative decision in delivering the appropriate verdict and sentence for Oberhansley. I'm very pleased that this difficult verdict and sentence has been upheld by the Indiana Supreme Court, Clark County Prosecutor Jeremy Mull told the News and Tribune on Wednesday. I hope that the victim's family can feel a bit more at peace knowing the trial's outcome has been reviewed and maintained. After the 2020 verdict, Oberhansley declared his innocence and told reporters outside the courtroom that the charges would be ineffective, asserting that Blanton had been killed by 2 men who broke into her home. Joseph Oberhansley's story goes beyond a simple criminal case. It is an indictment of the judicial system, its shortcomings in managing dangerous individuals, and the importance of mental health treatment. Today, Joseph is serving a life sentence in a mental health facility. The victims, Sabrina and Tammy Jo, remain painful stories of senseless violence and loss. The Joseph Oberhansley case is a wake-up call about the complexity of human nature, the consequences of substance abuse, and the gaps in the legal system. It is not just a story about a murderer, but a judgment on societal failures in preventing and treating high-risk individuals.